Boy, do I have a show for you. I am very, very excited because today my guest is the Sheriff Benny Napoleon. But I have an announcement first, and it is that District 1 Action Now, a Moses affiliate, presents District 1 public meeting. That is Tuesday, October 8th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Greater Burnett Baptist Church at 16801 Schoolcraft, just east of the Southfield Freeway. Make more informed choices in the election. Hear how candidates will manage key issues affecting District 1. Attending candidates will be Reverend David Bullock, Councilwoman Brenda Jones, Roy McAllister, and that's for council at large. And then they're going to have for City Council District 1, Wanda Jan Hill and Councilman James Tate. For more information, contact Allison Thorpe, Moses organizer, at 313-962-5290, extension 16. The email address is athorpe@mosesmi.org. athorpe@mosesmi.org. So I made that announcement. And now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome my guest, Sheriff Benny Napoleon. Good morning.
Hey. Good morning, Brenda. How are you?
I am wonderful. I am wonderful. Aren't you glad the sun is shining?
Oh, God, yes.
I mean, I've had from air conditioning to heat this week.
You know, this is the craziest time of the year for us here in Michigan and in Detroit, because we do that. I mean, at night, you definitely need the heat, but then it's going to be 70, almost 80 degrees today, so now you're going to have to turn on the air. You know, but we're used to that. It's Michigan. I know.
And then some scientists have found that the planet's going to heat up like 2 to 4 degrees in the next incoming century and everything. But maybe we won't be around with Obamacare.
I plan on being here.
Well, with Obamacare, I said I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here. Well, I'd like to welcome you, and I wish you the best on your run for mayor.
Thank you, Brenda. I appreciate that.
And I have some questions before I open up questions to the audience, and I will take a lot of questions this morning from the audience. And the first one is, how would you use the office of mayor to increase local participation in City of Detroit funded programs and projects?
The fact is, we have an ordinance in place that requires people who are in public funded projects to use City of Detroit residents, but unfortunately they've been allowed to skirt that. In fact, I met with a young man last night who gave me information on a project that's in Detroit, and they were supposed to be using Detroit residents, union workers, and what happens is people come in, get fake addresses, and then they hire them as allegedly Detroiters, and they're working on these projects. So there's a lot of fact-checking that has to go into it, and we have to make sure that we enforce it.
Okay, so, that's for public-funded projects. What about, and I've asked this before, transportation. And this was something that stuck out with me, and I know the Grand Prix is private, but they use public facilities, right?
Yes, they use Belle Isle, which is a public park.
Right. And I was noticing that most of the shuttle buses going from downtown to the park, because you know you can't take the cars on the park, they were shuttle buses out of City of Detroit companies. And how do vendors like transportation companies, who do they contact when they're trying to get in on things like that?
They need to contact the sponsors of the event. Unfortunately, folks have been allowed to get a pass by using the excuse, well, I couldn't find any local people to do that. So we've got to take that excuse away from them. I was just meeting last week with the Michigan Black Chamber of Commerce, and they held a strong showing of all of the businesses that are available in this community, giving no one an excuse to say that we cannot find someone from Detroit or a Detroit-based business or a African-American owned or woman-owned business or any other minority-owned business. We have to take away the "I couldn't find any" excuse away from folks, because that's generally the argument they will say, is that I couldn't find the person, or I couldn't find a qualified person, and that's just something that's patently untrue.
Well, how do you put it in their faces? How do you put it in their faces that we're here?
Well, again, I think that's where leadership comes in. When you have leadership that will challenge folks to say, this is what has to happen. This is what we should be doing. They won't have that excuse, but it's a leadership issue.
Right, right. Well, investors are investing downtown. Do you have any plans to increase businesses in the community, or to make the community relevant? I mean, besides Midtown and downtown.
I have started this campaign, and from the beginning, I was focusing on what is transpiring in the neighborhoods in the city of Detroit. As a lifelong resident, I have seen our concentration on revitalizing downtown. And let me make it really clear. I don't think that having a great downtown is a bad thing, but when you focus on downtown and ignore the rest of the town, that becomes problematic. Because over the last 40, 50 years, here's what we have seen. We've seen Cobo Hall, Joe Louis Arena, and the Renaissance Center built. Then we saw Comerica Park and Ford Field built. Then you've got the 3 casinos, the 3 casino hotels built, and now we're focusing on Campus Martius and some other things downtown. Well, all during that time, we have seen a consistent decline of the neighborhood. So at this point in time, I think we need leadership in this community that is going to focus where the Detroit residents live. Now, when I said that, folks said I was race baiting, and that was the furthest thing from the truth. I don't understand why anyone would run for mayor of a city and not be concerned about the residents who live in the community. I just thought it was outrageous.
Right. It seems to me like some of them would have to live in that community, these other communities. It's like everybody's going to concentrate in these particular areas. It would be nice, that's in a different world, if people lived in these communities off 7 Mile or off East Outer Drive, or some of the powers that be. If they lived in those communities, then they'd be wanting to fix them up. But because they don't care. Well,
that's why you need leadership. Folks are trying to diminish the fact that we need leadership that is from this city, that understands this city, that recognizes exactly what you recognize. We need to focus on creating an economic anchor. In my job creation plan, my economic stimulus plan for the city of Detroit will create an economic anchor in every single new council district so that people will be able to live, to shop, and to entertain themselves right inside the neighborhood where they live. That's what goes on in most communities in this state, and we lack that. And so I have and will unveil my economic job creation plan in about a week and a half, and it's going to focus on.
I was going to ask about that. I was going to ask about
that.
Yeah,
I've been really focusing on crime reduction, because as I've gone across this community, absolutely, as I've gone across the community and talked to literally tens of thousands of Detroiters, that is the #1 issue. So I've been going through explaining to people my Square Mile initiative and how it's going to change the very fabric and quality of life in our communities from a crime reduction standpoint and from a crime prevention standpoint, and basically creating a community atmosphere using police officers who are the most visible representatives of government, because we're out there every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So using that connection to the government to foster community inside of every neighborhood, inside of every square mile, we're going to change this community brick by brick, building by building, block by block, square mile by square mile.
It's funny, coming up in Detroit, you kind of knew the police who were in your neighborhood, in your area.
And that's what we're going to.
10th precinct.
I was too. You grew up in my neighborhood.
Yeah, sure did. You were at Cortland.
Yeah, absolutely. I know where you were. Yeah, but that's the thing. We need to get back to a point where police officers not apart from the community, they're a part of the community, and using that that office, that very powerful office that police officers maintain, to help create a safe environment, organizing block clubs, organizing CB patrols, creating neighborhood watches, and doing the things that we need to do, working with every church pastor, working with every business owner,
and
school
then it builds
principal.
trust.
Absolutely.
It builds trust with the people in the community.
No question.
The people might not be afraid to, like, drop a dime on something that was going on wrong.
Well, we're going to give them an opportunity to do that in a very anonymous way. You know, some folks
That's important.
Oh, it's absolutely, because people have that fear factor, and I've dealt with that over the course of my career in law enforcement. Folks sometimes want to tell, but they're worried that they're going to get some retribution behind telling. So we under my Square Mile initiative, it will give you an opportunity to participate in a very confidential way when there's an issue that impacts your community that you want to make the police department aware of.
And hopefully you'll be able to increase the numbers of police.
That has to happen, and I'm glad you brought that up, because as I've gone throughout the community, I've heard different people say that you can police the city with the number of police officers that we have. That is patently not true, because we get 1.5 million calls for service. We have over 100,000 Part 1 crimes per year. We've got extreme demands on investigative services. We have this thing called call stacking, which creates
What is call stacking?
what call stacking is when calls for service come in, and there's a certain period that police officers shut down and they don't dispatch units because they're changing shifts. So while the officers are changing shifts and getting cars, they're changing cars and doing the things.
So the calls are coming in and they're stacking up.
They get stacked. Well, you catch on quick.
Well, I hope so.
You're an educator, so I'm glad. So yeah, the calls get stacked up. So by the time the officers who are coming on duty get on the street, they're already way behind in the calls for service, and that has to stop.
It really does.
Well, you have to understand it's a problem first.
Yeah, these people are in limbo.
That's exactly what happens. And then the officers start out behind, which is why you have that slow response time, because people have called in while you're changing shifts, and as you're calling in, and they continue to call in. So you just get behind and you get a hole dug that you can't get out of. So call stacking is a serious issue in the police department.
Well, speaking of the police department, what do you think of Police Chief Craig right now?
In the interest of full disclosure, he's a high school classmate of mine.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
Absolutely,
I didn't know that.
I've known the chief, and we've been friends since our days in high school at Cass Tech, and so he's a very bright. He's a bright guy. He has roots in this community. His father still lives here. So he really understands, and he's been in touch with what goes on in this community for a long time. So, and he's very capable. He's working on his doctorate now. So he is a bright guy. He's great experience coming out of LAPD, Cincinnati, and he was chief of a little small community in, I believe, Connecticut. So he has the experience level. Well, what I tell everybody when they ask me that question is that he's only going to be as successful as the support he gets from the city, because if they continue to reduce staffing, he will not be able to deliver the quality of service. Exactly. And then it's going to look like, hey, this guy didn't know what he was doing. No. The fact is, we have underinvested in the Detroit Police Department for at least 40 years that I know of. And it's time for that to change if you're really going to affirm this city as a safe city.
Wow, it's amazing, because people are under the perception that calls are answered to downtown and midtown a lot quicker than they're answered to the neighborhood.
No, that's not really true. I mean, we have some serious issues throughout the community, and I know the perception is that downtown is getting some extra special attention compared to other parts of the community. That's not really the case, because I've talked to business owners downtown, and they're frustrated with the level of service that they're receiving also. In fact, I was meeting last week with the Greektown merchants, and they called and asked me, you know, hey, we've got problems down here, and we don't have enough police officers. We don't see enough police officers. Things are happening that, quite frankly, we would prefer not to happen. So it's not, the perception is that they're getting something extra special, but they're not happy either.
Well, crime, as you said, that's the big elephant in the room all the time. I mean, people do things on the basis of, gosh, will I get hit? Will I this and that? People leave their house on the basis. Crime is dictating our freedom.
No question. And one of the things that I don't understand, and I have not understood over the course of time, is that we know as we talk to people, if we did an exit interview of people who left Detroit but stayed in the area, not left Detroit and moved to another state or something, or moved way away from the city, but stayed right in the area. And if we did an exit interview of them, they will tell you that they've left this city for one of probably 3 reasons. First being crime. The second, something I know you know about, is the school system and people not feeling that their children are going to get a quality education. And then the third is going to be taxes and the insurance that we pay. So until such time as we have leadership that will focus on eradicating those issues, you're going to see a city that once had almost 2 million people and now down to 700,000. You'll continue to see the population decline until we address these very critical life issues.
Wow. So your plan, you've kind of told us some of your plan to reduce crime and everything. So I'm going to go on to my next question. What do you foresee your relationship to Kevin Orr? I have to ask it.
Honestly, I met Kevin Orr for the first time in passing about 3 weeks ago. So
really?
that was the very first time I had seen him in person, and we spoke. It was pleasant, but you know, I'm not really trying to develop a relationship with an emergency manager that I believe is here illegally. I'm trying to get rid of him because I don't believe that the governor has a right to impose someone on us over the will of the people of this community. So, you know, my focus is not developing a relationship with Kevin Orr. My focus is on getting rid of Kevin Orr. And I believe that, you know, he is here illegally. I'm a lawyer, and I did pretty well in constitutional law. And
okay, President Obama.
No, I'm not quite with the president, but I did okay. And I believe that the Constitution does not allow the governor to impose his will on us because he has not made a compelling enough case that we need to have an emergency manager come in to take away our fundamental right to choose our leadership. This is a democratic republic that we live in, and we have a right. That is the most fundamental principle that we have. Right now, we're in a situation that the founding fathers were in, taxation without representation. I'm paying taxes every single day. I have no representation in city government because the person who is there, who is exercising all of this authority over me and my family and the resources of this city, is not elected by me. That he is not a representative of the people. He's a representative of Jones Day and the contractors and the consultants and all the people that he is beholding to. He's not beholding to the residents of this community. And I think that is a clear example of taxation without representation.
And people complain about the fact, too, he has no vested interest in this community.
When he gets finished doing whatever it is he's doing, if the courts, which I hope and pray and believe they will say he is here illegally, when he is done with his business, we are left. I mean, it's like a slash and burn. You know, you're coming in and you're cutting and you're eliminating and you're changing the very fabric of this community, and then you just leave, and he never has to set foot in this community again in his life. That's unconscionable.
He never does. He never does. But in that case scenario, if you are elected, what would you got to do? He's still going to be here.
Well, again, you know, I'm an officer of the court. I think at that point, if the court says that he is here legally, which I don't, again, believe they will, then it's my responsibility as the mayor to do everything that I can to convince him that it is in the best interest of this community, the best interest of this city, and the best interest of this whole region to allow the elected representative of the people to run the government of the city of Detroit. If they say he's here legally, then he should be dealing with the financial issues. The mayor of the city of Detroit should be setting priorities for this community and determining how city resources will be deployed, what the city's priorities should be as a community, and then go about the business of managing the city of Detroit. He has demonstrated very clearly. Folks don't really understand what a big bureaucracy the city of Detroit is because they haven't been in it. And he found out in a hurry. He couldn't deal with the finances and deal with the actual function of the city government, which is why he brought in Gary Brown. Why do we need Gary if we have a mayor? Okay, you deal with the finances, let the mayor run the affairs of the city. And I think that, you know, my challenge would be to convince him. But if he does not, then my job is to be in a position where I challenge everything that he does that is not in the best interest of this community. I
just remember those words in the movie Malcolm X, "This is too much power for one man."
He has been anointed. It's like he's the king of Detroit, because he doesn't have to answer to our elected council. He doesn't have to answer to the elected mayor. He doesn't have to go to a community meeting. He doesn't have to do any kind of interaction with the citizens of this community, because he does not answer to them.
So what do you envision as your accomplishments, or would be your most recognizable accomplishments at the end of your first term?
Oh, absolutely. A livable, walkable, sustainable, and safe Detroit. That has to be our goal. That is not optional. It is compelling. It is the most important thing that we must have. We have to do some very significant things in this community. First and foremost, we have to educate our children. We have to get our children prepared for this new knowledge-based economy. We don't have the luxury.
And the global society.
Absolutely. See, we don't have the luxury of having our children rely on going out and being involved in physical labor as a way to make and enter into the middle class, because that's not the wave of the future. So our children have to be technologically proficient. We need to work very closely with the school system. You know, I don't think the mayor needs to take over the school system.
Right.
But the mayor needs to be the biggest cheerleader for education, and going out and convincing business and philanthropic agencies to come in and help this system produce the kind of young people who are going to be able to survive and thrive in this new economy.
Yeah, education is very important, because you were educated in the city. I was educated
Absolutely.
in the city, and you got a wonderful education, wherein people were very proud to send their children to Detroit public schools. We have to change that, but the schools have to change too.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have to adapt. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to happen. First of all, we need to understand as young parents the importance of education, because we have a lot of young parents who don't send their children to school.
That is amazing to me. That is just amazing.
Well, I know you know, as an educator, I'm sure you've seen that, but as a person on my side, to see the number of children who would miss school, and they would be in skip houses, they'd be in the restaurants, the arcades, and playgrounds instead of being in school all day long.
And sometimes their parents would drop them off and they never go in school.
You've seen it just as
I've
seen it.
I've seen that. But what gets me is we have to change the mindset of the parents to check every couple of weeks, or check with the teachers or something like that. Is my child there?
You know, and I that would be the perfect world.
Wow.
Where our parents would be the conscionable parent who would do what I did with my daughter, making sure that I met with teachers, that I followed her progress. The amazing thing is with some parents is they never check the kids' homework, they never go to a school parent conference, and then at the end of the year when their child is failing, they ask themselves why. Right. Well, you can't do that. But here's where I am, having spent the majority of my career in the Detroit Police Department in commands that had kids as their focus. I commanded the youth section, the youth precinct unit, the child abuse unit, and the gang unit. So I worked with kids who were troubled my entire career, for the most part, in the Detroit Police Department. And what we understand is that no matter what we do, we've issued parents tickets, we've arrested parents for not being a parent. That doesn't solve the problem, because the kid is still not given what they need. We have to recognize that there's some people who are not going to do what they are supposed to do to take care of their kids. Now that means that we have to take an extraordinary effort to save our children. It's worth it. It's possible and it's necessary. And some folks don't understand that. They'd rather send them to prison than send them to Princeton. And that's just not a smart philosophy. No. So we have to start working on saving our babies and making sure that if the parent isn't giving it to them, sometimes you just have to say it's not going to happen.
Right. Well, we've had to step in as a teacher. I've had to step in.
I know you
and,
have.
I mean, I was with these kids more than their parents sometimes, but you see this life, you see a gifted child, and you need to let them know that they can do it. A lot of these young people, if you don't hear it from home, you got to hear it from somewhere.
You know, I've seen teachers do some amazing things for children, and they don't really get the credit. I've seen teachers, you know, buy clothes for kids.
It's not about credit. It
No,
gets to
but
the
I've
point
seen them do it, and a
it's
lot
not-
of people
right.
really don't know
Right.
the lengths that some of our educators
Spend it
go
out of
through.
their
Oh,
pocket.
I've seen schools where teachers have actually washed kids' clothes when they come to class, and they don't appear that their clothing may be soiled, and they're wearing. Some of these children are sometimes wearing the same thing every day, and I've seen school systems where in schools where they've just taken it upon themselves to take care of these kids to a great extent.
And
so
feed them.
and, yeah, oh, absolutely, feed them.
You ready for some questions from the audience?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. First question from Sylvia. Good morning.
Good morning. Like Rosewood and Mississippi burning, the people are steadily being shut up and shut out. What can you do if you become mayor to make it a fair and equal playing field for us to get the jobs, the contracts, the services, our pensions, and the land that's being given away to other folks? Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Well, first and foremost, I think that as a city, we need to raise the consciousness of our residents. We have sat back, and one of the things that amazes me during this entire process is that many of us have sat back and we've been silent regarding all of the things that are going on. We have a very vocal and activist group in the community, but there are a lot of folks who have just seemed to have said, you know, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to sit at home. I'm not going to vote. People need to get out. Yeah, the apathy is amazing to me. So the first thing that we have to do is make sure that we organize for the benefit of our residents. There's no way that anyone should get a priority over buying land in the city of Detroit over a person who is a Detroiter. That preference is legal, and it should be in place as it relates to jobs. When there are projects that are coming into this community, Atlanta got it right. And I met with Mayor Kasim Reed about a month and a half or so ago. And what Atlanta does is demand that when you bring in these big ticket projects into the city of Atlanta, that you take the young men off the corners and teach them how to do construction and electricians and mechanics and carpentry and plumbing and things like that. We take the young ladies and teach them to be participants in this construction project. And what we have to really realize is this takeover is all about what the caller just said. It's about dollars and cents and making sure and determining who controls the dollars and cents that this great city spends and who's going to make a profit from it. And when you have leadership that is not going to focus on that, then we don't get the jobs. We don't get the land as Detroiters. We don't participate fully. So that's why this election is so critical.
Okay, we have Ruby on the line. Good morning, Ruby.
Good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Dennis.
Hi.
I have a question.
Could you speak a little louder, Ruby, please?
In our city charter, you know, we're supposed to have that insurance for the homes and auto. And I was wondering, would you make sure that when you win that you go after that, number one? Number two, you had a sign up on Davidson, a big sign on Davidson, near Delta, I believe, and someone has removed that sign. Did you give anybody permission to remove your sign?
You know, I am so glad you brought that up. For the last probably 3 or 4 months, someone has been going through this community stealing literally hundreds and thousands of signs that are supporting me in this community. And unfortunately, folks are saying, well, we don't see your visibility. The fact is, there's someone out there stealing it. And no, I did not give anyone any permission. And hopefully, if you can call my campaign office and give that information, or go online and at BennyNapoleon.com and give that information to my campaign staff. They'll replace the sign. But
Can you give me your number? Give me the number to your campaign office.
I'll give you that number in about 2 seconds, Mariah Peckett. But I never call it because I always go by there.
Because
And, you
it's
know,
a person that has a business over there, and I asked him, I said, he said it was a lady that had on some kind of shirt. He couldn't really see it. But he said she had on a shirt, and she was, she took your sign up. And your sign's been there since you had been running, although you knew I was for Crystal, right? And
right.
I told you at that last meeting, I said, Benny, I said, if my candidate don't get in, I'm going to vote for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
you
that.
remember me shaking your hand and telling you?
I remember that, and that's a great thing. I mean, it's time for us to heal this community. And during the course of the primary, I've said consistently, if I were not fortunate enough to survive, that I was going to support the candidate who was a true Detroiter. And I think it's time for Detroit to recognize that. My campaign office is 656-2180, 656-2180, and I certainly appreciate that.
I'll give them a call.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Wow, we have Howard on the line. Good morning, Howard. Hello?
Yes, how are you?
Fine. Could you speak up,
I spoke to you
please?
at the restaurant when you, I said I got to go home and quickly, don't miss the Perryman show. Remember that?
She's talking to you.
Oh, yes. I saw you last week at the restaurant, right?
Well, yeah, I told you I had to rush home so I can, right. Yeah, but anyway, I wanted to say this. Benny Napoleon, I've been knowing his father when he was first moved in Detroit.
Wow.
He had the church on Kirchhoff and Tennessee Baptist Church, and I've been affiliated with him for years because I was one of the first black guys to buy calves in the city of Detroit. And and since when I bought my calves, I was very attentive to listen to the news because I was one happy soul. And we had a guy named Patterson that said at that time that this is right after the riot, that everything Detroit got, he's going to make sure that we get it back because their water bills in the suburbs were more than $5 less more than ours. And he said, you will not have control of the water department and the other Detroit entities. And I've been looking and following up on what he said. And right now, we have this emergency manager law that came up, and it's all been a scam to take everything the blacks got control of in the city of Detroit. And it's a shame that they can have a candidate like Mike Duggan to be running around talking about he's for black people when he's the governor's candidate. That's insane for you to be contending with a guy like that and for him to have one black vote in the city of Detroit. So that's the way I feel about the whole thing.
Okay.
And you have a great day, and thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I had a question for you before I go to my next call, and that's about Belle Isle. Kevin Orr says now it's time for the state to run Belle Isle. What do you think of that?
I am 100% opposed to that. I think what we should have done with Belle Isle, I talked to former Councilman Kwame Kenyatta, and he and I had a discussion during the course of the negotiations and all the talking early on about Belle Isle. And he and I agreed, first and foremost, Belle Isle is a Detroit jewel. And if we are spending $6 to $7 million a year and we really can't take care of it to the extent that we want to, okay, that's fine. But what would be wrong with us at least attempting to put out a request for proposal to folks who are a lot more creative than I am? We own it. They pay us at least per year. And then we give them the opportunity to come in and make it an economic activity for the city of Detroit. They could come in and put the boats out there, to put the canoes back out, put the horses back out, open up the zoo.
Remember that when you were young.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Open up the zoo, open up the aquarium.
Tanglewood Drive.
You know.
I had to bring it up.
No, go there, Brenda.
you know, I mean, if you were a real old-time Belle Isle person, you knew where Tanglewood Drive was.
No question. Then you put maybe a 24 a destination, 365 day a year destination on the island. Make it a real destination do some things out there that are creative, put the restaurants back out there. A lot of people want to go out to the island. They don't feel like barbecuing, but they want to go and picnic,
Right.
get a chance to buy some. So at least try something creative before we just give the island to the state. I just don't agree with that.
Okay, we have Theo on the line. Good morning, Theo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello?
Good morning.
Oh, who am I speaking
This is
with?
Mr. Smith.
Oh, hi, Mr. Smith. I don't know
Okay.
what happened.
Good
to
morning,
Theo.
Miss Perryman.
Hi.
Okay, one thing I would like, I'm voting for Benny Napoleon, but I would like one promise from him, that he will keep us abreast to whatever is going on in this city, or what he anticipates on, what's going to happen or what we're going to do in this city, because I think what the frustration is about, that we're in the dark. We don't know what's going on until something is shoved down our throat, and I think we could be more proactive if you get in there and tell us what, if this is not right or if that's not right and what you're going to do to correct it, and I think you'll have a more friendly, city of, trying to talk and communicate with you.
I agree with that. One of the problems that I think we have in government is that we tend to not talk to the citizens and let them know what in fact is going on in this community, giving them some input above and before we make critical decisions that impact their lives. So I know one of the things that I would do would be to have monthly meetings open to the citizens, and so they could come in and have a direct conversation with the mayor and express any desires they might have. In this new age, we were talking earlier about technology, there's just so many ways that we should be communicating with the city residents every single day. I mean, we should have a very active website where we're online telling people what's going on, how they can participate, and we just have to really think out of the box.
And make it interactive where people can ask questions and get some answers without having to go down and fight, all of that.
One of the things that I know is in the process here, I know they're meeting, I believe they started meeting today with folks out of Washington.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
Well, last year when President Obama was running, I had an opportunity to speak with him out in Dearborn because I announced him before he spoke to the people here in the area. And one of the things that I told him when we were back in the private area was that we needed help, that the city of Detroit is a community that is very proud, but we need some assistance. And you bailed out the banks, you bailed out the autos, you bailed out Iraq. Detroit needs some help. And he promised that he was going to send some help to Detroit. And if you notice, when he did his inaugural speech, he mentioned one city in America. That was the city of Detroit.
Right.
Now I'm going to take credit for that from my conversation with the president.
Of course you will.
But
as you talk about that, I get a lump in my throat. Seriously, I do.
Yeah, but he did. He recently sent money to Michigan, about $100 million, and we're going to get $52 million of it, I was told, to help deal with some of the blight issues in our community, and they're sitting here today
I wish that
trying to do
some of
more.
them could go to getting more policing.
Oh, that's going to be part of it. My understanding is there's some of the results of today's meetings. One of the things that's being asked for is that a cops grant, which is something that they do anyway, and that would hopefully bring a couple of hundred more police officers to the city of Detroit.
That's wonderful. We have another call. Good morning.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
That's Theo. I know that
both
voice.
Of you. You spoke about assisting the children earlier. Within the top 10 highest paying jobs in the United States of America is pilots. Approximately $114,000 a year is what they make. The Detroit Public School System has Benjamin Davis Aerospace, and Jack Martin is working hard to destroy that. The children actually learn how to fly an airplane, and with a few more air miles, they can become commercial pilots and get paid. That makes them residents in this city that can contribute tax dollars, can contribute to the betterment of our community. They can graduate from Benjamin Davis Aerospace as mechanics. As a matter of fact, 2 of them are working at the city airport right now and the income for the mechanics is from $60,000 to $90,000 a year. Now, why on God's green earth do we have a school system, these folks who are emergency managers, destroying the vocational training of our young people? God only knows. All children are not financially able to go to college. All children are not academically able to go to college. And all children just don't want to go to college, but they do have talent. And to remove vocational training does a disservice to our young people, and it's a pipeline to prison.
Right.
I just want to know what you think about that and how you can help.
Well, you know, that's one of the issues that honestly we need to have leadership in the community and I know Theo's one of the most active community people that I know, and we just need to make more noise. We said it at the beginning, Brenda. We've been basically silent about the issues in our leadership at the council level and at the mayor's level, and folks in the school board need to be more vocal. But the problem is, even when we raise our voices, the local media is not going to cover it. So we have to come up with a new mechanism to inform folks throughout this community what's going on. We need to use our local papers, the Michigan Citizen, the Chronicle, and folks that hopefully will be more friendly to our mission to get that word out there. We need
and
to get,
we should use technology
absolutely.
too. I mean, tweeting. I mean, Facebook. I hate to say it.
We need to tweet. We need to Instagram. We need to do it all.
Well, and then email. Let people know what's happening. Get them upset about it.
Right.
Yeah. We need some righteous indignation at this point.
I believe in it. No, well, that's me. I believe in fact, I ran into somebody who was a college classmate of mine at St. Teresa's, and he said, "You were always a rebel." Can't help it. You know, you hate to see injustice done. We have Brother Knight on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Ms. Perryman, hey, cuz. I wanted to let everybody know tomorrow we need a lot of people over at the campaign office. We're going to be out on the street. We're starting at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So all the listeners, we need a whole lot of volunteers to make sure Mayor Napoleon becomes the mayor.
Thanks, cuz.
Ms. Perryman, I hope you decide to run for the president of the school board. I know you would do an excellent job, and we can get rid of that financial manager over there.
Well, my whole thing is always that I believe that people who know about education should be on school boards. Seriously.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, we get people off the street who haven't been in school in 50 years or 25 years. They really don't know about education, don't know about how they can be sold a bill of goods from these textbook companies or these people with these so-called new ideas. I mean, and some of the ideas just won't work. A lot of money has been wasted.
And
but
too, I'd like to mention that we're going to be honoring John Conyers this coming Sunday at my church over there at Grady Grace at 3:30. I know Judge Damon Keith and a whole lot of other dignitaries are going to be there. So,
I'll be there.
And this is for all the listeners. We got to go. We have to support Brother John Conyers and all the good work he has did. And for all the listeners, the best person for mayor is Benny Napoleon.
Thanks, Brother Knight.
Thanks, Brother Knight.
Anybody tell you any different?
Thank you. Thank you. We just have a few more minutes, so I'm going to get to another call. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We have Tom on the line. Good morning, Tom.
Yeah, good morning, Brenda. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
And good morning to the chief.
Hey, how you doing, Tom?
The sheriff, rather.
Benny's always fine.
Okay, let me say this. In terms of the city and the problem with the, and problems that face the city, crime is the #1 paramount problem that's facing the city. And, Chief, I'm pretty sure that there's some in the listening audience who may be sitting on the fence in terms of who they're going to vote for. Could you please explain to them your square mile initiative in terms of fighting crime, and I'll listen offline.
My Square Mile initiative is designed to reduce crime in this community. I'm committed to it. I am the only person in this race who can really take credit for reducing crime. My opponent claims that he helped reduce crime in this city as a prosecutor, and I don't challenge the fact that he is a decent prosecutor, but the fact is the prosecutor is not on routine patrol. The prosecutor doesn't do drug raids. The prosecutor does not investigate murders. They really just take a case that we deliver and present it to the court. So I don't understand how you take credit for reducing crime when you're just presenting a case in court. So now that being said, my Square Mile initiative is designed to take every single square mile of the city of Detroit and put a police officer in that square mile that is responsible for doing some very important things, most as it relates to quality of life issues. We have a big issue with abandoned cars in this community. You should not have an abandoned car, and you will not have an abandoned car in your community for days, weeks, and months and years at a time. Officers going to be there every single day. Get them out. Basketball hoops in the middle of the street where kids are drinking and smoking weed and messing up your grass and leaving trash, those things are a thing of the past. We're also going to focus on organizing this community with block clubs, CB patrols, neighborhood watch, working with businesses to create business surveys, to do home surveys, to make your community a safer community. You have a drug house in that area, you don't have to guess whether the police officers know, because they're there every single day just like you are, and they're going to be required to make sure they shut down that kind of activity. If you have a house in your community that's disruptive, neighbors sometimes get terrified about saying something to the person.
They really do.
Well, the police officer is going to knock on that door and tell them, you have to be a good neighbor, or you're going to get a ticket, or you're going to get arrested. We need to take our communities back, again, as I said, brick by brick, building by building, block by block, square mile by square mile, and I am committed to reducing crime in this community at the end of my first term by over 50%.
Yes, those are the quality of life issues. And I've heard people say, because they're so afraid of getting carjacked, when they're driving through the city at night, if they get to a light and they're scared, they're going to stop, look, and go. They're going to go opposed to that red light. You
know, we were able to reduce carjacking in this community in the 2.5 years that I was chief of police in Detroit by 65%. We used a very proven method of community policing, crime prevention, problem-oriented policing, directed enforcement, and a data-driven approach to crime. That's how you reduce crime in the community. And the same will go with carjackings. I had a meeting with Kim Worthy last week, and the week before last, and we talked about the crime situation in our city, and we both agree it's fixable. We just need leadership who understand that you have to budget properly to make sure that our communities are safe. I'm dealing with that issue every single day as the sheriff. I get budgeted for 1,800 prisoners, and on any given day I've got 2,800. And folks are saying, you know, Benny can't keep within his budget. Well, let me just make it really clear. If being in budget means I've got to put 1,000 murderers, rapists, robbers, carjackers, child abusers, and child molesters on the street, then that's just not going to happen. I'm not going to do that to the citizens of this community.
Good. We have Sam on the line. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning to my wise and progressive friends. Sheriff Napoleon.
Yes, sir.
As an officer of the court, why is it taking so long for the court to deal with the illegality of the emergency manager situation? And what would you do as mayor to prevent the further privatization of the city of Detroit? I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
You know, I think I know that I was at the courthouse when the case was filed, and unfortunately you cannot rush a federal judge. Federal judges are not subject to any kind of political pressure because, quite frankly, they're appointed for life. And so
nobody should be appointed to life for anything.
They're appointed for life. So we're hoping that the judge, from my understanding, is committed to making a preliminary ruling within the next few weeks as to whether we can move forward with this litigation or whether, in fact, the statute is unconstitutional on its face. So speeding the court up is not something that's within anyone's purview. But as it relates to the further privatization of the city of Detroit, we have to be extremely realistic. What has been painted in this by the state of Michigan and in Lansing is that we are incapable of leading this community. And they, in Lansing, have done tremendous harm to this community. Lansing took away residency from city workers. If you want to get a check from the city of Detroit, you should have to live in the city of Detroit. And I fundamentally believe that. They took away and did not deliver on our revenue sharing. They took the school board away from us. They took away the zoo. I mean, you can go on and on and on. I mean, the city's district court is now being run by a non-Detroit judge, and I was talking to a police chief from a suburban community, and they instituted this practice that I think is outrageous, and certainly I've been looking at some folks to figure out as a citizen of this community whether I have standing to file a lawsuit. But here's what's happening. Person gets a ticket in the city of Detroit. They can pay, if they live in a suburban community, they can pay the ticket in the community they live in.
You're a kid.
No, and that community gets half the fines. Now,
no stuff.
Absolutely. And the police chief that I was talking to said that in a 3-month time, their community got $200,000 in fines that was slated for the city of Detroit because of this new rule that was put in place. But we can't pay a ticket that we get in a suburban community in a Detroit court and then get half. I mean, folks, you really need to wake up as to what is going on in this community.
Well, that's where that communication comes from. We have Monica on the line. We just have we have about 3 minutes. Good morning. Good morning. Hello?
Looks like Monica's gone.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Perryman.
Hi, who am I speaking with?
You're speaking with Gerald, and good morning, Chief.
Hey, Gerald, how are you?
I'm all right. I was just making a comment, Chief. I am going to be voting for you.
Thank you.
And also, I was wanting to say, one of the things I was concerned about, understand about the kids being out there in the street with the basketball hoops and stuff.
Yes.
But they don't have any recreation centers open up. I would like to see them get those recreation centers open back up. And then on the schools, we need to have more vocational classes and curriculum, just like Ms. Perryman was speaking about Davis Aerospace School.
Right.
And I think that would help. Another thing is jobs. We need jobs. We just can't lock everybody up. We need jobs down there.
I agree with you 100%. As it relates to the recreation under my Square Mile initiative, there will be a recreational outreach for children in every single square mile. No kid will be more than a mile away from recreational activities for both our children and our seniors, because that's critical, because you are absolutely right. If we're going to take their hoops out of the street, we got to have another place for them to shoot the hoop, and we're going to do that working with community groups, working with schools, working with churches. It was like the old days when I was growing up in this town, and that's why it's important for someone to be your mayor who knows what this town was like and what worked in this community. I played basketball at Tappan Junior High School Monday. Absolutely. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I swam on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and on Saturdays we played in the neighborhood on the playgrounds. So we got to have opportunities for our kids. As it relates to the jobs, you know, we talked about that just a little bit earlier, but you know, we need to demand. There's $9 billion worth of economic activity that's coming to the city of Detroit. We need to demand that folks who are doing all these projects in this community are hiring those brothers and sisters who are standing on the corners, who are standing in front of party stores and restaurants and sitting on the porch doing nothing. We need to have a training aspect built into any type of program or any type of development that comes in this community that will employ Detroiters. We got one quick question from Ann, and then we're out. Good morning.
Good morning. I was wanting to address what Mr. earlier about residency. It's very simple to be able to prove residency. Tell the person that they have to produce a DTE bill within 2 weeks. DTE is not going to let you have service without sending you a bill, and they usually send it out 2 weeks in advance. Longer than 2 weeks gives them a chance to go and cut service on. But if you ask for proof of residency in the form of a DTE bill within 2 weeks of the asking, you'll have your proof. Okay.
I kind of understand that, but there's always going to be a loophole, because a person could come in and say, I'm renting from a person and they're paying the utilities. That's why I don't have a bill. And nobody has landlines anymore, because we could use AT&T. But we just need to be more vigilant in it. And that is a good idea, because producing a bill like that helps. But, you know, I understand how people are going to try to work around it.
Well, Sheriff Napoleon, thank you, Ann.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you for coming on and talking to my audience. We really appreciate it, and we wish you the very best of everything.
Thank you so much.
May you Godspeed and
it's in the hands of the
force
people.
Be with you.
We need to get out and vote. I mean, we need a large turnout.
That's another thing.
Yeah, we have to show up. If we don't show up, I don't win. It's
show
that
up
simple.
And show out.
Yes.
Thank
Take
you.
5.
Thank you.
All right.
And
Thanks,
everybody, join us this afternoon for Table Talk with Brenda Perryman. We also have a guest on today. So